Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo rant. We're a little bit late with the show this week. I'm sorry about that. We had a kind of unavoidable circumstance that prevented me doing it yesterday. But we're here today with the show. We've got some fantastic questions for you today. We're going to jump to them in just a second. Before we do, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You know the YouTube magic. Leave a comment down below using the word Kendo. What a brilliant Kendo video. This is the best Kendo channel I've ever seen. Best Kendo video in the universe, something like that. And it will help us grow the Kendo population. Okay, we've already grown it by 365 trillion people in the last week. All right, just by doing that. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So yeah. Leave a comment using the word Kendo. More importantly than that, though, if you like the channel, if you like the stuff that I put out, we have got these Q&A videos. We have got the instructional content tip of the week that has been doing really well. We've had a couple with this week. I think it was Gyakudo. I think we did. Next week we've got another good one coming out. If you like all that stuff, the analysis videos, we've got loads of content. All right, feedback videos, and it's all free. There's no memberships, nothing like that. All you've got to do to support it, it's a real win-win. Shop at KendoStar.com. KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the galaxy. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place, but everyone agrees with me. Check out our reviews. We are the best at what we do, all right? So shop at KendoStar.com and you support the channel as well as getting amazing Kendo equipment, all right? Lots of people asking me, by the way, I know this is part of the KendoStar plug, but people ask me this a lot. If you look on our website, I know it's not necessarily, I'm doing my best to make it a little bit more well-known. Yeah, but if you order on KendoStar for more than £125, that's GB pounds. All right, that's the currency that we use. I don't know what that is in dollars. It's like $150. I don't know, something like that. You actually get free shipping, and we always pay all the import taxes as well, or import costs. Now that depends on the country. There's a little list on the website of exclusions, but people ask me from the USA quite a lot. All right, because I know there's been a lot in the news recently about tariffs and import charges and stuff like that. All that stuff's included. All right, when you shop at KendoStar, all that stuff's included. You spend over 125 GBP. Again, I think that's like it might be more than $150. It might be like $165. I'm not sure. I have to check out the conversion. But you spend that, you get all that paid for. It's free, completely free. All right. You spend less than that, then there's a shipping option as well. You pay a bit for shipping, but it still includes all of that stuff. All right. So you don't have to worry about any of the tariffs and stuff. All right. So I just wanted to make that point. All right, that's enough of the sales talk. Let's get to these questions. So the first one says, as a 45-year-old European expecting to present Rokudan next year while out of the dojo, what kind of videos should I watch from Mitorigeiko? I see only a few Rokudan gradings online, and it's not always clear who's passing or not, or the age brackets. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a bit hard. All right, it's a bit hard to find that sort of content. I had that same issue as well. Because the All Japan Kendo Federation, for a start, has a rule. Lots of people ask me as well, like, can I do an analysis or something of my 7th dan, like a grading video? But I can't. I'm not allowed to. All right, because there's All Japan Kendo Federation has a policy that you're allowed to film your grading, but you're not allowed to publish it online. All right, so that's why you don't find a lot of like videos about gradings and stuff. Okay. So, what can you do? I mean, you have to just do what deal with what you can. All right. I would still look for 6th dan grading, and if you can, search it in Japanese. The way to search it in Japanese so you can see the Japanese ones. All right. I'm going to tell you how to do this so that you can do it. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be a bit of a long show today, but I think, it's going to be useful. Right, first you can start with Kendo, right? This is Kendo, right? Put that in the first part, then you can put Rokudan, right? Rokudan, yeah, it looks like that. And then you can put Shinsa. All right, Shinsa. And that will do. You'll get that, right? If you wanted, you could put Gokaku as well, right? Which means pass. All right, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that right into YouTube right now, and we're going to see what comes up. And then if there's a good video that comes up, we'll have a little bit of a look together, and I'll tell you right now what it is you want to look at. So, all right, We've got one. I've got one right away. Okay. It's from 4 years ago. Let me have a look, and I'll see if I can get it up on the screen. It says it's from 4 years. Sorry, the video was uploaded 4 years ago, but the Sensei itself was in 2019, so it's like 6 years ago. Yeah, it was in November 2019. So right now, that's 6 years ago. That's fine because there's no different. Like the criteria have not changed for the gradings. So let's see. I don't want to get this channel in trouble. I don't want to get this channel in trouble for highlighting it. But maybe it's before. I don't know. Let's have a look. I'm going to try and figure out which side is the pattern side, and then we'll see if we can get it up on the channel. Right, just bear with me a second. Okay, I'm back. So here's a video that came up. This is I don't know if I should highlight the channel or not. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Okay. So this is this channel is here. It's called Hitoken Garden. All right. Okay. So that's probably like a translation of his name. Anyway. Right. I hope the Zenken don't pick this up and like put this guy, ask this guy to take it down. But, we're just trying to help people pass their gradings here, right? This is going to be a long show today because, I'm not really doing an analysis video, but I think it's relevant to the thing. What you want to look for, anything like that, okay? And I think there's you can use translation options if you need to, okay? But I'm pretty sure it's the guy on the left here that's going to be the one that passed the grading, all right? But what I'm gonna do is we're going to talk about what it is you want to look at in the video, all right? Now, this is going to apply for 6th Dan, 7th Dan, and 8th Dan, all right, in a way, all right? And not necessarily at the same level. And it can apply at lower levels as well, 4th Dan and 5th Dan to some extent, all right? But I know there's lots of people struggle with, I think the big barriers in Kendo, right? 4th Dan, obviously you have there's barriers at 1st Dan, 2nd and 3rd Dan as well. But the big barriers, the real hard ones to break through is 4th Dan, 6th Dan and 8th Dan. They're the hard ones to break through. None of them's not so easy either, but that's when the things, the criteria seem to change quite big. So let's have a look. All right, let's have a look at this video quickly. It's only a 2-minute video. But this is the second one that came up, by the way, on the search criteria that I just posted, all right? I searched Kendo, Rokudan Shinsa, Gokaku, all right? That's all I searched. Now, again, this is from 2019. The best quality it's got is 720p, so it is what it is, right? I think it's this chap on the left here, all right? That's passed. So this is the first time I've ever seen this video, all right? But the first thing I'd say, right, okay, from this first shot at you, and this is what I'm just understanding from my point of view, okay? I've never sat on a 6th Dan grading panel, by the way, but I think what a lot of people do when they get to this sort of level, especially, but it works at sort of lower levels as well, is there's a kind of performance of this kind of semi-eye, all right? And if you put it on as a performance, then I think that leads to failure. It has to be genuine rather than just a performance, all right? So the kind of semi-eye with the opponent, applying the semi, getting the DI and the IQ with the other side, that has to be genuine rather than performative, okay? Oh, I'm doing semi. Look, trying to show the panel you're doing semi. You're not trying to show the panel you're doing anything. You're trying to do the actual thing you're supposed to do, and the panel will examine if you are, achieving that or not. All right. So if you put too much thought into performing for the panel, I think that will be wrong. Now, this chap here, what he's done, all right, we started at this, obviously you start at quite a far distance, the Shokujin here, and then his semi here is genuine. All right, it's genuine, right, and then he's able to launch the strike and make the great Debana Men, okay? All right, good Zanshin. And then again, same here. From both sides, the semi is pretty realistic, right? It's not just posturing, trying to show show off, yeah. But what he's doing now, I don't know what the age range is here. But you know, what he's doing is actively seeking to make or create the datotsu, all right? And I've said this before, right? It's about presenting your waza to the panel, all right? And that's different to putting on a show, all right? It's a fine line. I get it, all right? You only get 60 seconds in Japan for a 6th Dan exam, right? But basically, this is the sort of thing that, yeah, this as well, right? Okay, this Kaishido, okay. I thought this was quite good, you know. He's got the kind of, it's a little bit reactive, but he's still got the kind of connection with the other side when he does, right? Okay, so there's a mix of Oji waza and Shikake waza, Debana style waza. Sometimes this sort of accident happens. It's not the end of the world, right? This is the second exam. Yeah, so it's the player on the left, all right? I'd like to see, you know, if you could do a better Sonkyo than that you'd be better off like this side. But anyway, I'm not here to criticize anyone. But essentially, you know, there's a creation of semeai. Yeah, it's not just performative for the sake of the panel. I think that's the key. And you're not just attacking from your own free will. You're trying to create the datotsu between you and your partner. All right. And even when it doesn't always go perfect. It doesn't matter. You know, there's no like messiness happening where you end up like panicking, trying to block and stuff like that. Yeah. So what you're trying to do is present waza rather than necessarily present a victory. You know what I'm saying? So that's the sort of thing you want to watch out for. All right. So give it a search, maybe you'll come up with something. If you wanted to add something, and this is just me retrospecting, I probably should have done that. You could put. Oh, my lighting things are falling down. Right. You could put Yonjudai. Wait, I think I put that wrong. Yonjudai. Right. I'd probably put it in like that. Yeah. If you do that, it would be in the 40 years old, like, age bracket. Yeah. I'd do something like that. Okay. So that's what I look for. Okay. Something in that sort of regard. Okay. Right. So sorry for spending a lot of time on that, but I hope it's useful for lots of people. Hi, Andy Sensei. Are you able to share what the 5 types of suburi are for the 500 daily suburi? So last week we talked about like doing suburi in a different fashion. So rather than just like doing it to perfect your form, which is one way and the most common way and a really effective way, but sometimes just doing it for the sake of swinging the shinai as much as possible to get used to swinging the shinai. And I talked about how my daughter's teacher at her school, she does 500 every day just to get used to swinging the shinai, so that swinging the shinai becomes a natural like extension of the body. The pattern and I said as well that we do it in our dojo once a month. We do it in our dojo once a month. For the most part, our suburi is all form focused, correcting our technique and learning correct, perfect form. But once a month we do a sort of 500 suburi session where it's just about swinging. It's just about swinging the shinai, just repetition, like just numbers really, to get the body used to just swinging the shinai as a natural extension of itself. And they are Zenshin Kotai men. Okay. So that's 1 forward, 1 back. I think then the second one is, if I'm right, then going off memory here, is reverse. So it's really difficult. You reverse the right and left hand and the right and left foot. Okay. It's really weird. All right. Reverse Denshin Kotai. right? And it's 100 times each of these, right? Then the next one is Zenshin Kodai Sayumen. Yeah, Sayumen, so left and right. In that way, sort of 300 now. And then the next is like you kind of do the lunge position, but you know, like put your right foot out in front and then bend your knees so you're in like a lunged position and stay like that with the right foot forward. Let's call it lunged suburi. And you do 50 right with your right foot in front and 50 with your left foot in front. But you keep your hands, you know, in the normal position. And then haya suburi. And that's the 5 types. Okay, that's the 5 types. It's kind of tough. It only takes 10-15 minutes. But it's a good fun. I don't know if it's fun, but it's a good exercise for getting used to swinging the shinai fluidly and naturally. Next one, Sensei, can you do a video comparing the Hinomaru series with the Tetsu series? Kendo Ultimate Kendo channel. I'll see if I can do that. Actually, I think that would be a good thing. The couple of things I would mention that are mainly different about those two. So the Hinomaru series is our original range at KendoStar of made in Japan Boga. All right, it's a collaboration with the Nihon Kendoga Seisakusho, the Kendoga Workshop of Japan, which is basically the biggest, to my knowledge, workshop slash factory of Kendo Boga that makes Boga within Japan. All right, it's based in Miyazaki. I've worked with it for a long time. And it's, you know, it's well known, well established, and it's a big outfit. All right, it's a big organization that has lots of craftsmen, and it's like, as I say, it's basically a factory. Okay, similar to what you might have elsewhere on the Asian continent, but it's done in Japan, and it's done to a very, very high standard. Quality is fantastic, but what it is. It doesn't mean that it's not individualized. It is, but it is a kind of, how can I say, like, it is a kind of factory style system. All right. Whereas with the Tetsu series or the Nanahoshi series, that is using a different workshop that is also, it's basically a sister company to a Boga shop in Tokyo called Tokyo Shobudo, very, very famous, run by Mr. Tetsukawa, who is a very, very well established, very famous craftsman in Japan, especially in the Kanto region. And he is, their workshop is much, much smaller. Okay, it's much, much smaller. So instead of that sort of factory style production system, you've got much more of a smaller team of artisans working on each Boga set. So there's you know, it's a slightly different production style. I don't think it's a quality difference massively between the two. They're both very, very high quality sets. There is quite a few stylistic differences. Let me see if I can show you an example. Okay, so I've brought 2 men's here. There's these both belong to Miyuki, my wife. Let me just see if I can make some space to put them down so I can talk to you about them both. All right, so I've got one here. This is Miyuki's Kiraboshi men. Okay, Kiraboshi men, beautiful men, very, very nice. Okay, and then I've got also, this is her Nanahoshi men as well, okay? The Nanahoshi men, okay? Designed by Tetsu. Okay, so there's a few stylistic differences, and you'll know that basically, if you're really into Boga like I am, like maniac level, the differences are quite easy to spot on a person when they're wearing the Boga, all right? And it's not one's better or not, it's just like a kind of slightly different appearance. So one of the key ones is there's a difference in the mengane that's used, all right? She needs some new men himo here, but the Kiraboshi men uses an IBB Duramin mengane, all right? And the IBB series mengane is all made at the same place. It's made by a a company called Takai, okay, and they make all of the IBB series mengane, okay, and it's got a slightly like leaf shape to it, or if you were to put it upside down, like a teardrop shape, okay, if that makes sense. Whereas the Nanahoshi series uses a different company's mengane that is made by a company called Osaka Mengane, and it's more round. Okay, it's more round. Okay, so it has a slightly different. It's hard to get both of these on the screen, but it has a slightly different profile from the front. Okay, it's slightly wider. It's slightly wider. Okay, in this direction. All right, so it can feel like it's got a kind of wider vision, where this one has a kind of slimmer profile. Okay. Secondly, and I don't want to go into the reasons why, because it's kind of I think it's a bit of a trade secret from the Nanahoshi series. But the way the mendare naturally line is essentially, how can I say? You see the way it sits with the ago. This is more together. All right, so it doesn't open up like this so easily. All right, now there's a specific way in which they do that with the Nanahoshi series and the Shobodo series as well, the Tetsu series. Now, it's not that these are particularly open, yeah, but if you compare, because the shape of this men is also very nice, right? It's very nice shape, yeah, very nice shape, yeah. But if you compare it with this one, I'm trying to get them both on the screen at the same time. This one has a kind of slightly more closed. See what I mean? Like the section, the overall outline of the men is slightly different. All right, it's slightly different. These mendare flare out a little bit more, whereas these ones are slightly more kind of compact. All right, that's one of the, for example, stylistic differences between the two workshops. All right, quality-wise, build quality-wise, they're on a par. All right, they're on a par, yeah. But there's a few kind of differences. All right, and sometimes you'll see like famous kendoka, and their bogo looks a little bit different, and you might not be able to put your finger on why. It might be because it is from the Nanahoshi series. All right, so there's some famous kendoka that use the craftsmanship of Mr. Tetsukawa, whether it's through the Nanahoshi series or through the Tetsu series, or through you know, like there's third party other shops that work through Nanahoshi but brand it in a different way. And you know, for example, last year's All Japan Championships, the women's final, the eventual winner, Ms. Kendo, her bogo is a Tetsu bogo. All right, so if you look at her bogo and compare it to her partner's, Ms. Watanabe's, this kind of overall shape and silhouette of the bogo is slightly different, and that's the reason why. Okay, so there's a large personal choice in that as well. But yeah, that's it. There's a few more differences as well, and yeah, maybe we'll do a more in-depth video about it. But I thought, as you'd asked it, I'd give you a quick answer here. Right, next, there's currently no dojo in our county after our sensei moved away and the rest of the club disbanded. A friend and I, who have been practicing elsewhere and looking at reopening after passing Sandan, we plan to keep training with our regular dojo, but can you offer any specific advice for reintroducing kendo to an area? I've got experience in organising events for work, so booking and organising it isn't an issue. And we've got experienced people in our national federation who we can go to for advice and support, but I'd love to hear ideas in this area. I mean, it's just a case of, excuse me, I mean, it's just a case of just getting on with doing it, I think. I think there's an aspect of that quote from the famous movie, if you build it, they'll come. If you get the thing off the ground, get it up and running, and get it advertised on social media, if you get it at like, if it's a public venue that you're using, get posters up, and I'm sure you'll drum up interest. All right, I'm sure you'll drum up interest. There's no, you know, it kind of will naturally come together. My dojo, for example, we intentionally, we actually don't market my dojo at all. I don't. It's a small dojo. I don't have many members, and I don't mind that because it's a very small hall, and it's a very kind of intimate keiko that we have with just maybe 8 to 10 people every week. But lots of people come from elsewhere. We have lots of visiting students from other dojos. So yeah. It's, once it's there, then people have access to an extra, even from, it doesn't necessarily need to be new people, right? Like in the case of our dojo, we get lots of people from the surrounding dojos because they would like to get extra practice. So yeah, there you go. Next one. How do I train my fumikomi to be stronger? This is a very easy to say, difficult to do. You have to really focus on using your left leg to push your hips forward. Okay, use your left leg to push your hips forward. You can train this in suburi, believe it or not just by doing fumikomi, but by doing normal suriashi. All right, if you think about pushing from the left leg. If you watch the video I've done on the 3 types of men suburi, it's like, I don't know, like maybe a year old now, where I do 3 types of shomen suburi. The third one, where you push the right leg first, that's really useful for learning to push from your left leg. All right, push from your left leg. You can also practice fumikomi suburi. I've done a video as well. It's pretty old now. I could probably do with updating it, of how to improve your fumikomi. You can see a much younger and thinner version of me doing it, with more hair. And but I think the advice in it is still pretty sound. So go and have a watch of that as well. And there's definitely stuff you can take from it. This one came from the video that I did on Tsubazeri. This is, again, it's like maybe a year and a half old now. But the question was, what if the opponent wraps their arms around my shinai instead of doing Tsubazeri? And seeking a chance to hit at separation. Is it hansuko or what? So the word, welcome to Andy's Japanese classes, is almost hansoku. Okay, hansoku, not hansuko, hansoku. Okay, so let me find this. This is an older copy of the rule book, but it's not changed. It is hansoku, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. It is hansoku on the basis of letting go, committing other there is a, where are we? There we go. So yeah, it says there right away. Okay, so page 8 of this rule book, it might be different on the new one. It says Article 16, prohibited. I know this hasn't changed actually. It says 1, putting one's hand on the opponent or holding the opponent in one's arm. So this is one that comes up sometimes actually. It's not relevant to your question, but people should know. If you hit somebody in the shiai and, like, say you miss and you hit them on the elbow, all right, by accident, and then you go, oh, I'm sorry, and you put your hand on them and say, oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that can be the penalty. Okay, so don't do that. It's a bad thing to do. All right, don't put your hands on other people. That is the hansoku. All right, even if it's good intentioned. All right. But 2 is taking hold of the opponent's shinai or grasping one's own shinai on its jimbo. All right, so yeah, it's a hansoku to like hold, like you say, wrap your arms around your shinai. Okay. Sometimes it happens by accident, right? Where the shinai gets caught between your arms here, you just fix it. If you start doing this, right, if it gets caught like that and I do that and stop you getting it out, that's the penalty. Okay, it's not fair. All right. Next one, a fellow Kendoka friend and I were wondering, as we're about to do some shinai maintenance and repair, can you sand down or de-splinter a shinai too much? So much that it's dangerous to use. I imagine that it should be obvious, or perhaps to the point where it's no longer in the proper regulation weight. Separate question, what specific videos have you done on creating opportunities? Please provide the titles so I can search for them. All right. So yeah, yeah, of course it's possible to sand it down too much. If you sand it down that it's so much that it's too light, first off, that is obviously dangerous. Secondly, if you sand it down so that, like, you can see gaps between the staves, this is like an old shinai that's broken, but let's say you sand it down so much that there's like gaps between the staves like that, yeah, that's dangerous and you can't use it. All right. If it's too light, or if there's regulation sizes for the size of the tip of the shinai and stuff like that, all that sort of thing, is obviously going to make it dangerous. You should use common sense as well. Be sensible. About specific videos about creating opportunities. I don't think I've done one on that specific title, but I did do one, again, it was quite a while ago now, on the concept of semi. It's pretty, I'd say it's still pretty good. I'd probably like to update it at some point, because obviously from, I think maybe I've done that 7 or 8 years ago. So my concept of semi is slightly evolved, and sort of if I was to answer the question how to create opportunities, I'd probably answer it a little bit differently, but the information in that video was still very relevant. So I'd definitely have a look at that and take what's in there. I'll try and do another, I might cover that in a tip of the week at some point, because I think there's a more basic answer to it as well. Okay, next one, pretty long one. Let's have a look. It says, hello again, again, thank you for all you do for Kendo, no problem. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for all your advice, as it helped me to finally pass my grading after 7 unsuccessful attempts. So thank you. Congratulations, that's amazing, fantastic, well done. This brings me to my question. 1, I have 4 years until my next grading for 5th Dan. My plan is to break down my training into elements such as footwork, strike, etc., to see where I can further improve. What would be, or I guess, your focus between 4th and 5th Dan grades? 2, when you approach Jigeiko, Shiai, or Tachiai, or anything where you are facing an opponent, do you have a plan in mind to begin with? I guess it would be different for the 3 types of bouts, but if you don't mind elaborating, that would be great, no problem. Final note, no need to read this on air if you don't want to. Well, I've already started, so I'll finish. I remember a few months back, there was a question about whether gradings are actually important, or should one just practice for themselves. From my personal experience, after each failed examination, I looked for advice and reflected on what I needed to be fixed, as obviously I was not where I needed to be. So in my personal opinion, gradings are incredibly important, as they are good markers to indicate if you're going on the right direction. I like to compare them to bumpers on the sides of a bowling lane. Anyhow, thank you again, have a great day. Listen, that comment on gradings is exactly what I was saying. It's exactly the point I was making, all right? If you would go for a grading and fail it, then you're obviously not quite, there's something that needs fixing, and you wouldn't know that unless you went for that grading, okay? Right, number 1. So what would you work on between 4th Dan and 5th Dan? That's the question here, right? What to work on between 4th Dan and 5th Dan? It's very much the same, very much the same. You have to focus on making sure that your attacks come from a place of relevance, okay? The interaction and relationship with your opponent, rather than just, I want to hit men, so I'll hit men. I want to hit Kaishido, so I'll wait until I hit men and do Kaishido. You have to move away from that, and you have to look towards, how can I make an opportunity for Kaishido? How can I get them to hit my men? How can I create an opportunity where I can strike men, all right? And you need, if you focus on that for the next 4 years, then 5th Dan shouldn't be a problem, because that's what they're looking for, all right? And don't neglect your Kihon. Do not neglect your Kihon. You still have to be technically adept. When you approach different types, so in terms of when I approach different types of things, do I have a plan? To some extent, yes, all right? But, okay, so yes, of course I have a plan, all right? Of course I have an image of what kind of Kendo I want to do, right? So in the case of Jigeiko, it's going to depend on the context. Who is my partner? Are they a sensei, or are they a student, or are they a peer? All right, they're all different contexts. All right, if they're a sensei, then obviously I want to just try to be able to freely do my waza at the times where I feel are appropriate, with full commitment. If it is a student, then I want to still be able to benefit from the keiko by practicing the good, correct Kendo, whilst also bringing up their ability. If it's a peer, then I want to try to approach that in a way of how I can make my Datotu successful through creating successful semi-ai and aiki. With Shiai is a bit different. I'm going to start I'm going to start off generally using the first section of the Shiai to try to gather information, all right? Now, the first section starts from the initial day, All right, so I'll start to analyze the opponent from the beginning, and I'll use the first part of the Shiai to figure out, as I say, I'll try to gather data, information on how I can, I guess I'm going to try to collect data that I'll be able to use to achieve Ippon. All right. How does this opponent move? How does this opponent react? How is this opponent's kamae? Where are this opponent's weaknesses? Where are their strengths? All right. And how can I use those to, find a dato? And tachiai is very much the same, but tachiai depends, right? Tachiai could be like, let's take a grading, for example. All right. So last time I did proper tachiai was at my 7th dan exam. All right. My first opponent. Okay. I had an idea of what kind of. I didn't have a huge idea of what kind of kendo they did, but based on my experience, I could make a judgment call from their height, body type, from their kamae, from their tachisugata, as you would call it, of what kind of kendo they're likely to do and what kind of shotachi, first strike, they're going to want to go for. All right. And with that, I, of course, use the first 5 to 10 seconds of the interaction to test that theory. All right. So yeah, of course there's a plan depending on each thing. All right. It would be wrong for me to have gone into that tachiai, especially for that level of shinsa, with it in mind. I want to start the tachiai with this waza. All right. Because it depends on the other side. It depends on the other side. All right. If I had gone into that tachiai with, right, this first waza I want to do is debana men. All right. Now I went into my rokudan like that. I was like, I'm doing my rokudan and I'm going to take the initiative and I'm going to hit a big debana men. All right. And it happened to work. All right. It happened to work. If I'd done that in my 7th dan, it would not have worked. All right. Certainly not with my first opponent. So at least I had the awareness to realize that. So instead I was able to draw out an attack from them and start with a suriage waza. It was a suriage men. My shotachi was in my 7th dan was a men suriage men. Because I felt that the other side was expecting me to come for the men strike. So they were going to do an ojiwaza on me, all right, if I'd done that, all right, because I was bigger than them, all right. So instead, I pushed them beyond the point that their patience could handle. And they had to throw a strike at me, and then I was able to do a men's diagonal. Okay. Then after that, I got impatient. I tried to do men, and they hit a kaishido. All right. And both of us passed that exam. Okay. Third opponent was different. Okay. Third opponent was about the same size as me. All right. So that was one where I was expecting to go for a debana men. It didn't work. Well, it didn't work. I tried to build up the semi, tried to get them to come. I thought they were going to, and I couldn't quite hold my horses, and I went for the men, and they just didn't move. All right. And when I say they didn't move, they just deflected my strike, and I just missed. All right, fine. But then after that, I could see, I had this kind of sense that they were going to come for my kote. So I made this sort of approach in. They wanted to do the debana kote, I felt. So I made that approach in, and as they came for the kote, I did the kote kaishimen, and that was a good ippon. So that's and I didn't see the there was only 3 of us in our group, but I didn't see my first opponent's match with my second opponent. But I guess my first opponent did better because my second opponent didn't manage to pass on that occasion. So not that that's necessarily relevant to what you've asked, but yes, there was a plan. All right, there was a plan. All right, sometimes it doesn't work like it didn't in my second one. Okay, hello, Sensei. I'm listening to one of your old Kendo rants during the pandemic time. Wow, okay. In the video, you said that a dojo should have better marketing to attract practitioners. For example, the video game mentioned was the Ghost of Tsushima. I find that people who are into video games or anime don't really like physical activities. However, to be somewhat successful in Kendo, practices are very physical. How to retain practitioners when things get harder? Thank you very much. Okay, so I think that's a good point. Now, at the same time, I was never a physical kid, all right? Like my PE stuff, I wasn't a sporty kid at all, all right? But it took something like Kendo to spark my interest into that. So I think there are people like that, all right? I think there are people who aren't traditionally into sports or sporty, but will fall in love with Kendo and that will push them into it, all right? That's one sense of it. Second, you're right. To be successful in Kendo, you have to engage in very physically tough practices. Not everybody wants to be super successful in Kendo. Some people want to just enjoy doing Kendo, and that's totally fine. That's perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable. All right. So I think the other thing I'd say, right, is I don't think that it's just like nerdy anime kids that are interested in aspects of culture like Ghost of Tsushima, for example, or samurai culture or other things. I was a scrawny nerdy kid, right? So I'm using that. Yeah, I don't mean that in a derogative way because I'm one of those. All right. I was drawn to Kendo because I just loved everything about like samurai culture, sword fighting. I think it came from a childhood love of Star Wars. All right, because I think that's, I think it came from that. And I know Star Wars isn't necessarily, it's not samurai culture, but it kind of is. Darth Vader is obviously clearly modeled around sort of the samurai yoroi, the idea of lightsabers, dueling with these honorable knights, dueling each other like samurai, and I was in love with all that sort of stuff. And yeah, that's why Kendo really clicked for me. But at the same time, I think there's lots of people like that. And I think there's lots of people that aren't necessarily from that point of view. I think there's lots of people who are very physical, maybe in other martial arts. I think martial arts are full of people that really love samurai culture, Japanese culture, nerdy culture, geeky culture, that sort of thing. I think it's full of it. Some people, like one of my best childhood friends, he's very into jiu-jitsu. I don't think it's the Japanese style, it's a Brazilian style jiu-jitsu. And he was the same as me. He was very, very into that sort of, let's say, nerdy culture, still is, like I am. There's lots of very physical people into that sort of thing as well. So I just think that it's, I don't think that it's only, people who are not interested in sports or physical activities. I think lots of, for me, in my case, lots of people who have that kind of background perhaps are very into that kind of, like you say, into video games, anime and stuff like that. They don't like physical activities because they haven't connected with one. All right. So in my case, I grew up in England, right, in the northwest of England, in not a small town, but it's not a big city. All right. And physical activities in my school and in my community was football, or as they say in Japan, soccer, rugby, and cricket. Okay. And I hated all three of those. I hated all three of them. All right. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I didn't like it. So I resigned myself to being, I don't like sports. Okay. And it wasn't until I got older and I got interested I realized there was a thing called martial arts. And I got into, as I say, I really liked the Star Wars stuff. I was into all sorts of geeky stuff. I was never I liked anime, but when I was a kid, anime was not something that was easily accessible to someone from where I was from. You had to stay up until like midnight or something and watch it on one of the obscure channels. I'm talking about anime still, normal anime, nothing inappropriate. But You know, all the other stuff. I loved Star Wars. I loved samurai. I loved martial arts films. I loved like Hong Kong martial arts films, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, all that sort of stuff, Jet Li, those things. I loved all that sort of stuff. And when you know, when I got the chance to do Kendo, like I had done martial arts before that. Okay, I'd done other martial arts before that. But not you know, to any sort of high level. But it was Kendo that really clicked with me, and I think that can be the case for everybody that's in that situation. So I do think that there's I don't think we should write it off as, well, those people don't like physical activities. All right. At the same time, you have to be accommodating when they come to the dojo because they might not be used to physical activities. All right. Hello, Andy Sensei. I hope all is well in KS land. A quick one. If someone is teaching a class, should they be referred to as Sensei, regardless of grade? Even if it's a Mudansha, what other appropriate Japanese terms are there? Would Senpai work? Thanks in advance. Okay. This is a difficult one. And it's a unique, like, Western problem because, or outside Japan problem, because we only use grade as as our, like, signifier of everything. Like, we put so much emphasis on grade, on an individual's grade, that doesn't exist as much in Japan, at least not until 8th Dan. So, along with that, we put sort of mysticism and significance on the word sensei as well. So yeah. Anybody who was teaching Kendo, like, and their role was a shidosha or a teacher, in Japan would probably be most likely referred to as sensei. But sensei isn't a mystified term in Japan necessarily. Okay, it depends on the context. All right, but there's lots of people called sensei, but it depends on the context. All right, and there's people I will call sensei because it's the appropriate suffix for them. I'd be a bit reluctant to encourage people to overly use that term. If the shidosha themselves, the teacher themselves, is not really, like, you know, what can I say? I think it's because the context is different. All right, the context is different. So yeah, like, if you don't have any Dan grade whatsoever, I think it's a bit odd to have people calling you sensei. Can't just use your name. You know what I mean? I don't think it's right to call him senpai either. It's not, like, again, it just feels weird to me because that's not how senpai is used in general Japanese context. So yeah, if you were shodan or higher, then I could kind of be like, yeah, cool, fair enough. But again, it's not just on the Dan grade. It's just so much matters to it. I think there's exceptions. It really depends on the context. Really depends on the context. I don't think there's an easy answer to this. I don't think there's an easy answer. It has to be what you guys feel is appropriate. And both the teacher and the students are comfortable with. Don't like the idea of using senpai in place of it. Personally. All right? Personally, it's not. I don't jam with that so well. Okay. Sorry, I know that's not a brilliant reply. Anyway, hi Andy Sensei, love the Kendo rants, and I got an interesting question. I always see this member from the national team strikes the opponent's shinai down very hard, and it usually results in the opponent dropping their shinai out of their hands and then follow it up with some waza. This usually happens if the opponent's kensen is super low and around gedan for a split second when the opponent is not paying attention, like after a failed strike. I've never seen anyone else do it other than him. It always results in a hansoku, not zoku, hansoku, for the opponent dropping the shinai Was wondering what your thoughts are on this, and is it something I should try and keep in my own Shiai arsenal, or is it more of a cheap move? I think it's a legitimate move, and if it's as you describe, it is it is Hansoku for the player that drops the Shinai, because as the rules clearly state that number 5 in Article 17 says letting go of the Shinai is the Hansoku. Now, at the same time, there's a little bit of ambiguity here, because the Japanese version says it's slightly different. The Japanese says Jiko no Shinai wo tosu, which means drop your Shinai rather than let go of your Shinai. There's a little bit of stuff around that. But what you're talking about here is that one player kind of loses concentration, the other player hits the Shinai down before making a strike, and that, the Shinai being hit down goes out of their hands. It's the Hansoku for the person dropping the Shinai. All right, it's the Hansoku. If it's excessive and the other person's just trying to bash the Shinai out of their hand, then it can be the Hansoku for the player doing the bashing. But, you know, you don't have to follow it with a strike. It just has to be part of the natural back and flow of the Shiai. So there should be an intention to make the opportunity to strike. Now, as we can't read each other's intentions, that's ambiguous, yeah. So it's down to the judgment of the Shimpan. But if you do the otoshi on the person's Shinai like this, you don't necessarily have to hit. If they drop the Shinai, it's generally the Hansoku for the person who dropped the Shinai. All right. But if you over rely on it, then it doesn't look good, right? You got to keep, you got to act sensibly. Yes, it's valid, and you should use it if you get the opportunity, but you shouldn't rely on it or overdo that, all right? It's not a good look. Okay, last question. Dear Sensei, I sometimes feel that the greatest factor pulling my performance down is the fear of not doing it right and the desire to impress to show good kendo. These factors either bring the red mist on me and get me overly competitive or hesitant to go all out. Do you have that experience? How do you tackle this? I think everybody has that experience, and I think it's natural, and I think it's part of the point of kendo, all right? It's part of the point. This is why it's important for you to challenge higher level senseis, for example. And when I say challenge them, I don't mean like, I challenge you. And I don't mean like try to go and beat them. I mean challenge yourself to stand in front of them and test your own ego, because you will want to hit them, you will want to impress them. And you have to overcome that to benefit from the keiko properly, all right? And it's hard. It's hard to overcome your own ego. It's hard because you want to hit lots. You want the other person to think you're strong. You want the people who are watching to think that you're really good. You want to feel like you're really good. You want if it's a sensei, you want them to be impressed with you, and you want them to compliment you. These are all natural feelings. And of course I experience them. Of course I do. All right. And I often fail at overcoming them. All right. I often fail. And it leaves me either paralyzed to attack because I'm afraid of being struck, or it leaves me, again, I get over eager to strike, exactly as you've written. It's totally normal. It's totally normal. And it is a challenge that as Kendoka, we all must wrestle with it. All right. I've got no direct advice for you for it, because I'm still very much struggling with it myself. All I can do is wish you the best on the journey, because it's a tough one. All right. But just know that it is normal. All right. Do your best. There we go. Thank you very much for joining me today. It was a long show. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for staying till the end. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, shop at KendoStar, and see you next time. Bye-bye.